Hi, everybody. Welcome back to My Intelligence. Today, we have another episode of Land the Job with Young. She landed the almost impossible investment banking internship. So we have a lot to learn from her, and we're super duper excited to be here with her. Hi, Young. Could you give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself and what you did over the summer?
I'm a third year student at Rotman Commerce in University of Toronto, studying finance and economics. And to give you a bit of a background about myself, I did my second year summer internship at BMO Capital Markets as an investment banking summer analyst. And then next year, I'll be joining TD as the same role.
Awesome. So can you start off with telling us a little bit about the actual timeline of when you landed this job? So do you remember when your interviews took place?
So my recruitment was quite different from regular investment banking recruiting period, because a lot of investment banking or banks tend to recruit their analysts in for third year summer. So that recruitment happens in September or even August of like that same year. So I would really keep that in mind if you're recruiting for third year summer. But for me, because I was recruiting for second year summer, which BMO provided the internships for, I started in December so that's when the screening process started. And then for January, I went through like first and second round interviews.
Awesome. So let's start with the technical portion of the interviews. How did you prepare for the questions?
For investment banking technical interview prep, there's a really famous guide called Breaking into Wall Street. It's kind of considered like an IB Bible for a lot of people trying to break into banking. So I think I really read that religiously. For me, I think I crammed a lot, which was a bad idea. So I read that in a month, but I recommend taking a longer time than a month to read it, because it can get really stressful at the end. But I think other than breaking to Wall Street, the really like important part is to familiarize yourself with the industry. So that can happen through joining an investment club, but also reading the news and like reading about an industry that really interests you, and really thinking about how it relates to like the market as a whole and the economy as a whole, and what you will be doing in your like job as an investment banker. So I think that's really important too. Yeah.
So to find out what would really be expected of you as an investment banker, like you just mentioned, did you maybe network with some other people who were at BMO, or did you mainly find out just through researching and doing your own research?
At first, I started with my own research, really finding out what the job entails, because investment banking is kind of a buzzword within like business and people who are pursuing finance. So I really took the time to see what the job actually does. And then after that, I talked to a couple of upper years that has already done the internship, attended a couple of panels, like info sessions. So because I didn't have enough courage to like talk one-on-one with like an investment bankers, I was really intimidated of them. And then after that, I reached out to a couple people in different banks, started talking to them. And when I found out BMO is recruiting for second years, I started networking with BMO as well. Yeah.
That's actually super inspirational and relatable. A lot of us do feel intimidated. I remember my first coffee chat. I don't even think it was somebody in the capital markets industry, but I seriously couldn't feel any part of my body. It was just so intimidating. So it's good to see that we can leverage, upper year students to kind of familiarize ourselves with that situation. I think that's a great idea. And
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, so among your research, what really inspired you to go for investment banking in the beginning?
At first, something that sparked my interest in like a world of investing in general, because I couldn't tell the difference between investing and investment banking, was when a couple of my friends started talking about the stock market, like how much returns they were making. So that really sparked my interest. And then after that, I started looking at buy side roles, whether that was asset management, private equity, so more investing related roles. And the investment club I joined was really buy side focused as well. so at first I thought I wanted to go into buy side, and then after later on I found out that to whether to get into buy side you kind of need the sell side experience. But after that, and finding out about investment banking, I realized that I really enjoy the high pressure and intense environment rather than investing, which is performing like a due diligence for like a long time, whether that's years, and like sticking to a couple of companies that you're researching. So I really found that investment banking is what's right for me, and that's why I decided to go into investment banking. Yeah.
So just for those who don't know what buy side and sell side is, would you mind giving a super quick summary of how you would explain these two terms, and also say what investment banking is?
Within capital markets, we divide like capital markets into buy side and sell side. So sell sides include investment banking, sales and trading, and equity research, where they're actually selling the products. And then buy side is the people that buy them. So like whether that's asset management, like that, like private equity or hedge funds. So like they are buying the products that sell side is selling. So and they're actually taking part of investing rather than being in like a sales type role.
Going back a little bit, could you tell us a bit about the behavioral questions, what kind of things they threw at you, and how you went about it to prepare and all that stuff?
To answer your first question about what type of behavioral questions, investment banking interviews are really looking for A, like you have a positive attitude, B, you have attention to detail, and 3, you're someone that can handle long hours. And so that said, I think a lot of my behavioral questions I got was revolved around that. So there are obviously like, tell me about yourself. Why do you want this bank? Why do you want this job? But there are also like, oh, how are you going to handle long hours? Tell me about a time when you juggled multiple projects, etc. And in terms of preparation for those behaviorals, I think the most important thing is identifying your strengths and weaknesses and creating a story. So I think someone called it like a McDonald's menu. So have like everything that you can just pull out of your pocket. So I think, and to that point, I think identifying your 3 strengths and 3 weaknesses is the most important, because that kind of summarizes the like experience you had in whether that's like through life, career, or like school. So that would be like the interview tip if I had to provide one. Yeah.
Great. And were there any particularly hard, either technical or behavioral questions that you didn't really know how to answer? And if so, can you tell us what you did instead?
I think the hardest behavioral question that I got was first they asked me the 3 things my friend would say about me, and because I prepared that, I was able to answer it pretty well. But after that, they were like, oh, let's say like there's a person that dislikes you. What are the 3 things that they would say about you? And that really like caught me off guard. So I think that was the most that was the hardest question I got so far in terms of behaviorals. And for technicals, a lot of people do look at breaking to Wall Street pretty extensively, but because banks know that, they tend to move away from that and really try to identify if you can think on the spot and are a critical thinker. So later on my interview, there are a lot of questions where interviewers dig deep into one concept, and I can't really pinpoint a time, but they like kept asking, digging deeper. So I think that was the hardest like technical part. Investment banking interviews, nobody expects you to answer any of like all of the questions correctly, and I think it is important to recognize that before going into the interview. And when you're in an interview and you see a question that you don't know, it's important to state that you don't know it. So for example, I would start with like, oh, I'm not sure what the answer is to the question, but my assumption is this, and therefore I think this, so that you really show your thought process and show that you can think on the spot, but can also take everything as a learning opportunity in the interview and on the job.
That's actually a really great advice. And I feel like that aspect of the interview is very similar to consulting, where you're trying to show them that you're a rational thinker. And it's definitely a hard skill to master. So for anyone out there, I definitely recommend that you practice, practice, practice. Finally, do you have any tips or tricks for students who are going through recruiting for an iBanking position and how they can come out with the job?
I think trusting the process and really doing what needs to be done, and striking a balance between all of those responsibilities is really key. So investment banking can seem overwhelming at first because you have to keep up good grades, but on top of that, you need to network, you need to read the technicals, you need to like join an investment club, and that all sounds like a lot. But if you're really passionate about the industry and if you are really familiarizing yourself, that it will all work out at the end. So I would say keep a positive attitude and don't slack off on one thing, because doing like well and putting your like best foot forward in all of those responsibilities will lead to good results at the end. So I would say like really trust the process. Never get discouraged because like your friend has a better job, your friend already has an interview, and just like trust yourself. And that sounds kind of cheesy, but trust yourself and really just focus on yourself would be like my advice and tip.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Just to close it off, to anyone watching, we also filmed a day in the life. So if you're interested in hearing about what Ayang actually did while she was doing her investment banking internship, make sure to check that out. Or if you'd like to also look at some other career opportunities, we have that there too. Everything will be linked in the bio. So thank you once again for watching. And Ayang, thank you so much for this amazing interview.
No problem. Thank you.